Guys.
Hey!
Thanks.
Welcome back.
Thanks, guys. I always leave the mute on the microphone to start. We'll just restart everything for you so you can hear everything.
In 3, 2.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Poker News Podcast. I'm your girl, Sarah Herring. This is your boy, Jeff Platt, coming to you live from the pavilion at the Rio All Suite Hotel and Casino. Dead, guys. D-E-A-D right now.
Empty.
Nobody's
the pavilion is empty.
Nobody's in here. And yesterday it was packed AF. It might be as the day goes on later on, but it's really bizarre because with the exception of last year and now this year, normally Pavilion is cleaned out. They're already building pool tables in Pavilion by this point because you know where we are, Jeff. Day 5.
Day 5 of the World Series of Poker main event, which is kind of what we used to like about the main being the last tournament of the summer because the whole place would be tearing down, right up to those final couple tables. And now with some of the post-slim events, like it makes sense to keep everything going for a little bit.
Look at this creepo.
We were just talking about people randomly walking up to us, but this one will allow.
I wouldn't
Robbie
call this
Straczynski.
random. How you guys doing?
No, Robbie's actually part of the Poker News Podcast family. This is host of Top Pair.
L'chaim.
But we were just
Honorary
talking
member
about
of the
how
league.
hard it is to shoot a podcast without some weirdo like standing in the back. And then like as that was happening, I was like, "Are you effing serious?
And
This
then
guy
on cue-
again?"
Yeah.
But it's Robbie, so it's cool. It's
Robbie,
fun.
how's your main event experience going so far?
I didn't win the bracelet, Jeff.
Yeah.
That makes two of us.
Oh my gosh! Now, Patricia says we're frozen now. You guys, are we frozen
no.
still? Looks like we're great over here on my end. Can you let us
Yeah,
know?
but that thing that usually has the live and the viewers went away. Right. Oh, no, that's here? Yeah.
All right, don't mind me. I'm just here to interrupt. It's all
Let's
good.
just make sure. Let's just check Caesars.
This is
Oh,
easier
Donna
than
says, "What's
commenting.
up, Robbie?"
Hey, who?
We're just gonna make sure. Donna, she's in
Oh,
our
hi,
chat.
Donna.
She joins us on the reg. Hi guys.
Yeah, I think-
Okay, looks like internet's working. Oh, I see Richard Seymour.
Yeah.
Yes, this is a great story. We have so many potentially fantastic stories, you guys. So many potential winners coming to you. This is like, honestly, this is why I love the main event so much. As we get closer and closer, there's so many amazing stories that can go down. Okay, everybody's in. Look, Tony says, "What's up, Robbie?"
Tony Burns.
Now we're working. Okay, we're working. Great. I can get working on getting you guys actually into the chat.
Chris says, I thought Jeff was an extremely wax Joe Stapleton. Tricked me for a minute.
So good.
Shout out to Stapes and to Chris.
All right, well, I think we should at least first catch up on the life and times of Jeff Platt, because Jeff unfortunately is one of the players who busted the main event, but he is also one of the players who took advantage of the fact that there's all these extra amazing tournaments.
Yeah.
I had him to win the little one for one drop.
Yeah.
So what happened?
Let's see. So I entered yesterday with a lot of chips.
Yeah.
More than 140 bigs. Got it in really good and lost. Then got it in on a flip and lost. Then got it in bad and also lost. And it was like, okay, good game, everybody. Nice playing with you guys. That was a lot of fun.
It was not meant to be.
It was not meant to be. Amazing tournament, great turnout, more than 6,200 entries. That means that one drop raised in the range of $650,000 to $700,000 for their important organization. So that was cool to be a part of that. I would have liked to win or found a cash this summer, but hey, I made a day 2, Robbie. How about that?
That's
one
more
that's
day
2 day
two
2s
than
in a
I
row.
made.
See, there we go. And we played about the same number of events, right?
Yeah.
And I just played a couple more. So it was fun. But now I can hone in on the main event of the World Series of Poker. It's day 5. There are 354 players left. Getting down to the nitty-gritty, I feel like at this point we're pretty lucky as far as the amount of names that we have left still in the mix. There are a lot of really good storylines and a lot of names that will make for super compelling television and reporting as we move down the stretch of this tournament.
All right, so I want to talk about some of those names. I do also want to bring up, it was interesting because yesterday, we started the day in the money with 1,256 or something, right? Something around there. And these players all walk away with $15,000. But then as I was looking at the pay jumps, it's the next pay jump was 15,900.
Yeah.
And then it was
Slow.
16,700. And I was actually really surprised to see how long it takes before you're actually making solid, good money in the WSOP main event, for how difficult it is even to make it to, say, for example, a day 5. So let's look at what we've got here. At 350 players, these guys are guaranteed
34,000-ish. I believe.
Yeah. $34,845. So this just is, I mean, for me, I was honestly just surprised to see. I've done this for enough years to know, but I mean, making it to day 5 of the main event is an accomplishment, and to walk away with like 35 grand is like, man, you got to get up there. You want to make that good money, right?
You really do.
You want that real life money. You got to just stick in this thing till the bitter end.
I think that this year, we can pull it up again, but it's top 90-ish, get into that 6-figure range, and there we go. Now we're talking some money here. And again, everybody at the final table.
How much money did you make when you were in the top 90?
In the 113,700. Not that I remember
After
anything.
Taxes, Jeff.
We don't, taxes backers at like $356 left. It was great. So the money is up top. A lot of money is at the very top. It's $10 million again for first. I can't get over that. It's not like the Martin Jacobson year where they just guaranteed $10 million for first, and then second place was like $5 million, and then it fell off dramatically. But $10 million for first, organically $10 million for first. I'm still shocked at the numbers, even though they didn't break the record. For this kind of turnout is just incredible.
Okay, but what are they doing? Because like the numbers, as I keep calling them, are so beautiful. You know, you come in, you're a millionaire.
Yeah.
You win, you're a 10 millionaire. They're too nice. So what's going on? Where's like the added 67s or like 42s or like
they're too clean
They're
for
just
you?
like beautiful, soft, zero numbers, and I'm just trying to figure out there's no way that it actually works out with that, because the number of entrants works out to be something 69, right? 8,569.
I mean, I'm sure Jack and them saw the actual payouts on their calculators, and then the marketing team came in and they're like, hey guys, if we could just clean this up a little, first place, maybe a cool 10 million. Everybody at the final table, maybe a cool 1 million. No tricky numbers. Like, let's just do this.
As a reporter, I really appreciate it. I think it's really nice, and I think as the players also appreciate it, as long as nothing was skimmed off the top. Right? As long as it's an addition and not like any subtractions, then we're down. All right. Well, first of all, I do have to say that PokerStars does not own Global Poker. Global Poker is its own company. It is based in Australia. And I guess before we get into who's left and who we're looking for, we will give a little taste of the Global Poker. Let me just pull it on up. Global Poker is the home of online poker in America, thanks to their massive weekly tournament schedule and the chance to win through their jackpot sit-and-goes. With more than 1 million registered players in the United States, if you are not playing on Global Poker, then you are missing out. Head to www.globalpoker.com and set up an account today. So we have plenty of sponsors. Poker News operates as an entirely separate company from PokerStars. So also, PokerStars does not own 888, but they do sponsor quite a lot of our content. In fact, PokerStars doesn't really sponsor any of our content, unfortunately.
I was just thinking about that. That's a little strange.
I'd really like it
What's up, PokerStars?
If they would. But yeah, just to get that little clarification out of the way and to give the shout out to our sponsors for Global Poker. But let's talk about, Jeff, let's get into it. Let's talk about,
are we ready?
Who's going to win this thing? What do we got?
Okay, let's first get out of the way who is not going to win this thing, because this is important. Chris Moneymaker out, Johnny Chan out, Qui Nguyen out yesterday. That means
no more main event champions.
Exactly. Whoever wins this will be a brand new main event champion. Now, like we said, we have a lot of recognizable names. The name at the top is not going to be a recognizable one. His name is Dean Marrone. He is the chip lead, 4.98 million in chips. That's more than 200 big blinds entering play. To give you an idea of how big of a chip lead that is, second place has 40 less big blinds. Now, Dean is an 888 poker qualifier.
For $100.
From Canada for $100, and he's chip leader in the main event on day 5. How cool is that? Could we see another Moneymaker-ish boom if Dean ships it?
No chance.
Yeah, all right.
No
cool.
chance.
Sarah's always here to bring us back down to reality.
We're already in a boom. We don't need qualifiers to win things to be in a boom. There's enough people who I think are like deeply invested in this poker game now who, I mean, everyone keeps talking about how the, casual players are getting better, the better players are getting better, everyone's getting better. So I actually think it's almost that we don't even need, I guess qualifiers are better, I think, than they were in 2006. So for me, it's the boom is here. We're in it. We're mixing it up, and Tony gives a shout out to Gary Gates of PokerStars, who I do
Gary
also
Gates
love.
Still in the mix. He got some TV time yesterday on that secondary feature table.
One of my faves, very charming person, and gosh, I haven't talked to him in ages, but I know, anybody who's in this poker industry who works behind the scenes needs money. So I hope it works out for him. And Michael, I just want to answer your question briefly. And thanks for your participation in the last few episodes. We appreciate it. In terms of the taxes, it's really interesting because it totally depends on which country you're from.
Yeah.
So whether you're in Sweden or Mexico or Holland or the United States, everybody's tax laws are super specific to their country and what kind of relationship they have with the United States government, in addition to what kind of viewpoint or perspective they take on gambling.
Right.
A lot of countries, in fact, like in the UK, I think, which is why a lot of poker players live there, have very liberal and positive ideas about what should happen with gambling monies, although they have very strict laws on marketing. So long story short, it totally depends on where players are from. And as we get closer and closer to the final 9, we will look into some of those details and be able to give you guys some more information.
And some countries, Caesars will withhold some of your prize money. Is that right? 30%. Yeah, will be withheld. In America, they're going to give it all. If you're from America, they're going to give it all to you. And you're going to talk to the IRS about how much you have to pay.
Yeah, like a boss. And there are tons of people who specifically look into tax laws. For if you guys are poker players and you're out there, I in fact worked with an accountant who works more in poker. Even though I don't play that much, I just think it's like a weird industry for people who don't understand. Conler and Associates has a booth here. They work specifically in taxes for gamblers, and also Mac Verdestang. He's an attorney who works in the world of gambling. It's its own very specific world. And so, like we said, I did give some very solid legal advice on our last episode for those who want to go streaking through the Rio. But if you want real advice, those are a couple of guys that you can ask. I use in town Teresa Fox in Vegas. She's my accountant, and she also really specifically focuses on gamblers and crypto peeps. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about who else we should be keeping our eye on. 888 qualifier in the lead, but we all know we got a long way to go.
Long way to go. And so I think at first we can just focus on the highlights of yesterday's TV coverage, because we see the magician on TV, and whenever Antonio Esfandiari is on the feature table coverage, you know you're going to be entertained. And we were entertained. He had some prop bets with a player next to him. I think he won $20,000 in prop bets throughout the course of yesterday's play. He had a chance, if 3 queens were on the board, then he would win $100,000. And so when he saw 2 queens, the sweat was on for $100K. It's like he almost didn't care about losing his flip on all in a call versus another player, because he had so much on the line in prop bets. So that was so much fun. We mentioned Richard Seymour. He's on the second. He was on the secondary featured table. I'm sure he'll be on featured tables the rest of the way. This is another player that would be huge for the game, because people start to see Richard Seymour running deep, and it's not just ESPN that's picking it up. It's CBS Sports, it's NFL Network, et cetera, et cetera. And this thing could blow up if Seymour goes deep into day 6 and into day 7. And then just for a quick wrap on yesterday's coverage, Olivier Busquet was short stacked, ran it up to $2 million, took his sweatshirt off, and man, that guy is ripped.
Hey-o.
Like,
good for the coverage. How do we get more ladies in
yeah,
poker?
There it is.
Done.
Show Olivier Busquet more. I mean, that guy, probably top 0.0001% of fit human beings. I mean,
Ask Jeff. Jeff was looking.
There, yeah.
We're not going to lie. Jeff was there.
Absolutely. I was admiring Nick and Ali on the coverage when he took his sweater off. They're like, oh! The gun show, to say the least.
He works hard for it.
Let's
just show it off. We're going to
Why
forgot
not?
it. And let me ask you this, because I actually was having a conversation with my camera guy yesterday. He's a huge sports fan. He works in the sports industry, and he was basically saying, has there ever been a Richard Seymour-esque player to move into poker and have, commercial success that was really great? And I could say, thinking back, I'm like, I can think of some soccer players who are maybe more specifically famous, like in Europe. I can think of tennis players who got sponsored, but not really
Seymour,
who ever were super
cricket.
successful. Cricket.
Yeah.
There's been some boxers, some fighters, but all these players have come in and do their celebrity thing. But I would say to have a really deep run, much less to final table a main event, I really couldn't think. I was like, Greg Mueller, I think he used to play hockey.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to see someone who is as well known and well regarded and still relevant as Richard Seymour is right now, to be getting this coverage on ESPN, even if he doesn't final table it. I would say I really couldn't make too many comparisons, and the deeper he goes, the better it is. So if you guys are out there, give your chips to Richard Seymour. If you really care about the game,
dust him off.
Do what's good for the game, and give your chips to Richard Seymour.
And I think Seymour also separates himself from the rest of the ex-athletes, or most of them, in the fact that he not only loves poker, but studies poker. He's friends with a lot of the high rollers. He's traveling to a lot of the different tournament stops. He's not just showing up for the main, but he's there for Party Poker Barcelona. He was there at the PCA in the Bahamas. Like, he's so passionate about the game and wants to get better and loves the competition that, like you said, I don't think you can make a comparison to another former athlete, and I think that bodes really well for the future of this game. More and more athletes are going to see Richard Seymour playing cards, which we know just playing cards is very popular in the sporting world. Teams on planes, buses, they're playing cards, they're gambling, they're mixing it up. And so they might fall in love with tournament poker just like the big guy has. And
can I just add one thing also?
Yes, but you have to come in closer because there's one microphone and it's right here.
I'll just add one thing about Richard Seymour. He mentioned yesterday he feels like he's the only guy who also plays, he plays the 400s as well as the 10Ks because he loves the game. And he said he's got a house here in Vegas. His wife and kids are here. He was so relaxed and chilled. He said, it's like vacation. I'm enjoying myself. And that's a great attitude. It's a great way to approach playing poker and not, really caring too much about the money. He can really play his game. So he's certainly got quite a shot.
I have to say what I like about Richard Seymour is that of all these sort of athletes and big deal, we've had like DJs come in and whatever, of all the famous people who come in and do their little like tour on the poker circuit, Richard Seymour from the very first time I met him at the PCA, he's not only accessible, I think, and available to both fans and to the media, but he's actually ingratiated himself into the community of not only poker players, but of poker media. He's like high-fiving in the halls, and it's an uncomfortable situation, I think, for a lot of us being in poker. We have like our poker community, but then once you branch out into these athletes, it's like, should I say hi or is it okay? And he really just like immediately came in and was just down with everybody. And Tony mentioned that he had a deep run in the WPT main in April at the Seminole Hard Rock. I'm assuming when he says R, that's what he means. And in fact, the last PCA that I was at, so not this year, but the year before that, he also had made a deep run, not only in the high roller, but also in the main event. So he clearly has an idea of how to play.
Yeah, he looks very comfortable too at the poker table. He always looks like so composed and so calm, and he's not like overwhelmingly intimidating. Like, he doesn't give you the Alex Foxen stare down, which would be terrifying coming from Richard Seymour, but still, like, you're intimidated playing against him, I feel like. So I'm just fascinated to watch him moving forward throughout the main event. I mean, he has some chips. He could really make a run.
Now, as we were coming here to shoot this podcast, we saw a D-Moon girl, our girl Danielle Anderson, in the hallway, and I think this is something we also, have to bring up, and something that we talk about every year, how important it is going to be to, and how great it would be to see a woman at the final table. And you guys know about my feelings, like, obviously whoever's the best should get there, but it would be really cool. It would be really cool to see it. Let's talk about, do we have any other women left? Who can we look for in the wonderful world of women?
I know we have PokerSasha left, who has 1.58 million in chips, Sasha Liu. Mainly a pot limit Omaha player, but mixes it up in the no limit tourney fields on occasion. Danielle, by the way, has 660K in chips, so she's got a little bit of work to do, but that's still like 30 big blinds, and I think she'd be great. And, not just for increasing the amount of women in the game, but I just think Danielle would represent poker really well. I mean, she's so positive, we love her to death. I mean, I just think she'd be great with the media. She'd be great with the fans.
She's a mom.
Yeah, she's a mom.
That's like something that you really can be like, you can have a family and you can play this game, to showcase that for everybody.
Yeah, I think it'd be awesome if she made a run. Jackie Burkhart is also in the mix. She went deep in the PCA PSPC. She won a platinum pass, I believe. And so I think she's great on TV. I think she'd be a great ambassador for the game. So we have a couple sweats as far as that goes. As far as people on the top of the chip counts list, Henrik Hecklen is there with 3.86 million. high roller, to say the least. Super high roller, maybe we should say, fires off all these 100Ks. Andrew Brokos has 3.5 million in chips. He's had a really smooth
I was going to say,
ride.
it's hard to stay at the top
I
of the
know,
chip
and
count
he's
for
like been in
day
the
after
top
day
10,
after day.
you know, for the last 3 or 4 days.
And again, we're
Yeah,
talking poker
super
media.
positive guy.
Poker media, we need this money to ship it to the poker media.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
Runs tournament Poker Edge. Chad Power, who ran deep in the main a couple years ago. We have Big Huni, Chris Hunichen, who, you know, has crushed the online game. You would see him on top of the Pocket Fives rankings just every single day for years and years. Has also transitioned into the live realm really well. Is also a lot of fun to watch. He is not afraid to mix it up. Craig McCorkell has 2.5 mil. Daniel Hachem, the son of Joe Hachem, 2.45 million in chips. That would
Full
be
circle.
a pretty cool
Let's just keep 'em
story. Darioooooo Sammartino was also on the feature table coverage with Antonio, 2.3 million in chips. And how about Joseph Cheong? Still alive with 2 million in chips. He won a bracelet this summer. You know, maybe another final table coming up for Cheong. I know he was super short at some point, either yesterday or maybe it was late in day 3, and has managed to spin it up pretty good.
I also want to just ask, I think it's interesting, I spoke to Vivian Saliba. Jeanette was asking about Team 888, which we spoke about. The chip leader, or one of the chip leaders at least, is a qualifier. I have a list of qualifiers, and there's several of them left. I think all of the pros are actually out and were out to start the day yesterday. But Vivian Saliba going so deep in the crazy eights, I was talking to her a little bit about the transition from PLO into, you know, No Limit Hold'em, and to say the same thing for PokerSasha. For Sasha Liu, actually Vivian was explaining that realistically, if you are great at PLO, you can very easily get great at No Limit Hold'em, because your ranges are so much tighter in PLO. Yeah. You're so used to having these like deep swings. You have such a complex understanding of like the value of hands. And so she was basically saying, I guess actually if I had to transition from one to the other, if you can learn to be really great at PLO, you could transition more easily into No Limit Hold'em, or have a really vast understanding of the actual value of hands, and the actual value of starting hands specifically. So it would be great to see PokerSasha, and I think if we ever had somebody who loves the great game of PLO as much as some people we know do, maybe it might also be a way to create an even bigger boom in the PLO world.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, PLO's seems like it's ready to explode. We've seen massive crowds for all of the PLO events so far this summer. I know a PLO bounty event is going on right now, and that yesterday for a $1,500 post slim, one buy-in that got, or maybe that was re-entry, I'm not sure. It had more than 1,100 entries. Boom, just like that. I mean, that just kind of shows you the popularity of PLO.
And I think it had 833 last year, if I'm right.
Yeah, okay, see, that's a perfect example. So that's trending in the right direction, and you're right. If a PLO ambassador, so to speak, made the final table of the main, then that would be just another spark for Potlam and Omaha. Some other names still in the mix. John Turner, Pearl Jam, is 1.7 million in chips. Jeff Madsen hanging around 1.4. Sam Greenwood, Matt Stout all around that 1.4 mark. Matt Stout was down to 35K late in day 3 and was able to spin it up. You just need a little bit of chips, folks, in the main. Chance Kornuth is there lying in the weeds. He's always super dangerous. How about Efro? Still around with 1.2 million in chips. Todd Brunson is there. Ali Eslami, you know, a blast from the past, is there. Galen Hall always dresses super classy, so I'm a fan of his.
And consistent. He doesn't even show up that often, but when he does, he somehow manages
comes in and crushes.
Yeah.
Alex Foxon, I believe, has flown under the radar. I mean, besides always being listed on the notables chip counts on the TV coverage, he's there. He's got almost 1 million in chips. Mike Mattisell, 730K. Thomas Canuli, former November Niner, 495K in chips. Max Silver, Jay Farber. Alan Kessler, one of the shortest stacks. Big surprise. At 240K in chips.
Did you see Seth's tweet about that?
Yeah. How about Seth taking a shot at Alan asked the WSOP Twitter account what the top 3 payouts were after they said it's 10 million for first, and then Seth responds and says, min cash is 15K, Alan. Very well done by Seth Polanski. And also one of the shortest stacks is Kerry Katz, who comes in today with 200K in chips. Kerry Katz, on day 4 of the main, was multi-tabling. He was going back and forth between the main event of the World Series of Poker and the 50K, the final 50, where he finished 12th, I think, for more than $100,000. What a baller. That's unbelievable. You're shocked.
I'm surprised. I mean, based on his based on what Kerry Katz, he should actually, if I were to just guess, he needs to figure out like what the equity he has in like the main event versus in the final 50, and just stay seated, because like he's got that kind of fuck you money that's like, I don't need to be like playing those hands, like I'll come in a little bit later, like don't you even worry about it.
That's true. His multi-tabling strategy might be different than that of like a Sean Deeb, for example.
Dude, he can literally just be like, can you just bring the table like to me? And Poker goes like, for sure, we're coming right now. But I mean, I think he's another player that's actually been more consistent than people would give him credit for, especially in the last few years. I think his game has gotten a lot better, and I think that, you know, consistently playing with the best of the best, he's becoming one of the best of the best. So
I think so too. I think he's starting to become like a real force in these high rollers. He, you know, everybody kind of makes fun of him for always being the shortest stack at the table, but like he really knows how to play that short stack, and I think he almost sparked this change where if you're in the big blind with anywhere from 8 to 12 big blinds and somebody has raised, you always like either get it in or fold, and he's like willing to just call and see a flop and then get it in, you know, kind of a stop and go, but on a more advanced level. Like he plays the short stack so trickily. Is that even a word?
I think so.
If it is, he plays it that way.
And I saw Philip Grusin playing like that like last year at a few different high rollers where he had like 7 big blinds or something and was making calls and raising and just doing things where I was like, what is happening? But I think, yeah, it's changing. Some of his choices maybe are changing the way people are exploring and trying different things.
Just a little bit of a trivia for you guys. What position on the all-time money list do you think Kerry Katz is?
I hate the all-time money list because I think.
How much do you think he's won?
I bet he's 12th.
I would say he's won close to $6 million.
I'll say $15 million.
$19.8 million for 24th.
24th.
That's under the radar, if anything. $20 million this guy's won.
Doesn't count.
You need us to leave?
No, you guys are good
okay.
right now. He said that they just might take the table.
Okay.
So if they do come over for D-stack, that'll be the time.
Okay.
So you guys
Thank you, Nick. Okay.
Jeff wanted to go into the fancy area, and I said that we have to stay in the ghetto area.
Yeah,
and
with
now,
the people.
like that was a mistake that I clearly made.
For the people.
But see, this is why the high rollers or like the all-time money list is such a joke, because I don't actually think it's any indication of how good you are. That being said, I am saying I think Kerry Katz is a great poker player.
Yeah. But
if your like minimum buy-in is like $10,000 is like slumming it for you, then it's really hard to put you in the range of, say, for like Alex Foxens, who started by playing like they're jumping into 500s in one case to begin with, and then like finally make it to the final 50. Which, we do have to get to that at some point, too.
Yeah,
right?
And that is our final table today. That will be on Poker Go and also CBS All Access. I believe 7 players are left. Brandon Adams, the chip leader. Adams coming off that bracelet win in the $3,200 online high roller. Adrian Mateos, Michael Adamo, Danny Tang, Sam Savarell, Ali Imshurovich. No surprise there that he's at a high roller final table. And Keith Tilston rounds out the final 7.
Dude, and Danny Tang, we've been talking about him. That's my boy, and I've been like he's definitely one of the people I had on my list to be a breakout player this summer. Even though he's been around for ages and he's been doing well for a long time, he's really been crushing these high rollers the last year or so, and he made it deep in the main event last year, and I was hoping, now it's like proving my predictions are solid, even though Calvin Anderson may or may not win the player of the year.
It's going to take some work down the stretch.
Yeah.
More than $1.6 million for first place in the final 50. 123 entries. I would say that's a pretty good turnout. Good question from... Who's this question right here? From Rob. Any thoughts, projections, coverage on the new Bracelet Winners Only event that starts today? Coverage, pokernews.com. Thoughts? I think it's unique. I like that they're having it. Projections, 110?
Well, that's a little
field
low.
size?
I think like 200.
Okay, Sarah?
Okay. I think that this is basically just another take on like the Tournament of Champions, right?
Yeah.
Like whatever the WPT is doing. I think the circuit already does something like this. I think it's cool. It's an interesting idea, and it just gives people another extra bonus to win a bracelet. we will definitely be covering it and getting some video stuff. I also think it's cool because a lot of the people who have won bracelets, especially this summer, as we know, are great poker players who we want to see. We want to see play against each other. We want to interview. So I think it's a great event, and why not? I have no idea how many people go in. I don't even. How many bracelet winners are there total in the history of the WSOP?
Thousands?
I think, a little over like 1,200. But you got to discount multiple bracelet winners. You got to discount people who are no longer with us in the world.
R.I.P.
All that R.I.P. Right?
Sorry.
One for the homies.
I know Chad's eligible. I think he's going to play.
I think Chad Holloway will play.
Event. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so. Nobody in my audience even knows Chad anymore. Chad is a Poker News employee.
Shots fired.
Okay, so let's talk. I want to talk briefly about this because for my life this makes a difference, and I don't know, maybe for your life. When is this going to be over? When's the final 50 going to be over today?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'd say they're relatively short stack because it was 40-minute levels, so the structure is fairly quick. So I think you should be ready to conduct an interview maybe within 3-ish hours after the final table starts, which will be good, which will fit your day. For those of you watching live on Facebook, I do believe that the stream starts in 24 minutes at the top of the hour. For those of you listening to the podcast, you can probably check out the replay on
And it's going to be
Go.
the same thing where it's ESPN is going to be covering the World Series of Poker, and Poker Go is going to be covering the final 50.
Exactly. While Poker Go will also cover the main event later tonight, along with ESPN and ESPN2. So all over the place with your poker coverage. That's why I love Poker Go so much.
Wow, shout out to
That wasn't
people
a suck
who
up or anything.
pay your bills.
What's up, Sam Simmons? You are the best.
I'm not familiar with Brandon Adams' play style. I think for me, for the most part, I've interviewed him about, say, for example, tennis a lot of times, but not so much his playing. Coming in with 75 bigs, obviously a lot of these players, Michael Adamo specifically, and I was looking at Adrian Mateos, Ali Imsirovic, they're super aggressive players. They're going to come right out of the gate. But what kind of a style is Brandon going to play as the chip leader?
I think Brandon is very GTO, running.
That's a super nice compliment.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think he runs a lot of hands through solvers. I think he talks with a lot of people about a lot of these hands. I think he will understand the. Really, everybody here at this final table will understand the ICM complications that come into play, but Brandon especially. I think we could see him try to run over the table in certain spots, considering his chip lead is a pretty big one. And so I think he has to be a considerable favorite going into today.
And what time are they starting this?
They've started. They're underway.
Yes! Okay, cool. My husband's coming into town tonight, guys.
Oh, nice.
I got to pick him up from the airport.
I think you're on pace for that.
Mama needs to plan the schedule out.
Yeah.
We will also be... Of course, today is Wednesday, so if you guys want to keep your cursor on pokernews.com, we release not only an update every day about what's the most recent stuff happening, but every Wednesday we do a highlight of the craziest stuff to happen, the most interesting stuff to happen over the last week. Obviously, with the disqualifications, I feel like we really kicked this year off with a bang, so in case you missed any of that stuff or you're curious, look out later today for the highlights / in case you missed it video from the last week.
Just sort of an observation, actually, about the final...
I know I look good.
Yes. I am observant. Anyway, so the final 50, right, the final 50, and the main event, it's very interesting, the contrast. You're talking about the GTO and running it through solvers. They're all in the same room. They're in the Amazon room.
Yeah.
But if you look at that table playing poker versus all the other tables playing poker, it might appear like it's the same game, but their brains are just on another level. They are not playing the same game. It's fascinating to just stand there and watch them. You can sort of see the numbers, moving in their head.
Yeah.
It's unbelievably different than just the 10K main event. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I think, you noticed that right away.
Unbelievably
I think
different.
a good example, the champion of the Poker Players Championship, Phil Hui, was on with the Poker Central podcast guys, and he mentioned that he was watching these high-stakes cash games on Poker Go, and he's like, man, these guys suck. And then he was like, oh no, they're just like on such an advanced level versus myself and what I know about, No Limit Hold'em, for example, that it's fascinating that they can be 4 levels above of where some main event players
That's
lie.
what all that
But
experience does.
so what you're essentially saying is that 4 levels above might actually bring you back to ABC.
Yeah,
like when you
in a
get
weird
too many
way.
levels deep,
Right.
you're back at ABC.
And we can level ourselves with this conversation as well.
Well, and it's interesting because even so, for example, Phil Hellmuth's like spaz a few days ago, where he basically accused this other player or said about this other player who people know to be a great player and who people know to be a really solid mid-stakes grinder, oh, well, you can't make certain moves on certain types of players because they're just not advanced enough to understand, sort of what you're doing. And so I would say you could make the argument that maybe potentially some of what's going on in the high roller, while super complex and super interesting to watch, at least they're all playing the same game, where maybe sometimes when you come to some of these main event tables, it's even extra complicated because you don't really know what game the person you're going up against is playing.
Right.
Are they playing that high roller game? Are they playing the ABC? Did they pull their ween out like at the table 3 days ago? Nobody knows. And I think that you could make the argument that that's, if nothing else, at least as complicated.
Yeah,
difficult?
I almost feel like that's the next shift we're going to see in high rollers for the next couple of years.
Ween
Is who's
exposure?
going to that definitely not that. Who is going to stray from the norm? That's become the real GTO approach in these high rollers. The game constantly evolves, and I'm curious to see how that evolution will take place.
And even, for example, I spoke to Fedor Holtz a few weeks ago about his
retirement?
his training site that's about to go live. I think it's Poker Solvers, I want to say, or Poker Solve. I to be perfectly honest with you, I knew I wasn't getting it, so I did not I did not worry about it. But that he's been working super hard on releasing this program so that he can give all of this studying and analysis and so much of what he and some of his colleagues have accumulated over the last few years. And it sounds crazy, but we've all talked about the effect, for example, of Doyle Brunson's Bible of Poker. Basically, how much did that change things? How much did people then have to readdress their own games? And so it'll be interesting to see, as some of these newer systems that are being released by high rollers come out, how much will that affect how the game's played in general?
Yeah, so true. So
I think
true.
everyone's going to move to Badoogie. That's the one that's
Badoogie
not solved,
is the new game on the streets.
That's
we'll
right.
see. We'll see. When's the Badoogie event coming to the World Series of Poker?
Maybe next year.
Okay.
I think that's what we're always supposed to say. Next year in Jerusalem, next year Badoogie, right?
I've heard that. And next year I'm going to do well at the World Series. That's what I always say, too.
Oh, so true. Everyone just needs a little more Leroy Jenkins.
I got to check
Thanks,
out.
Tana.
Can I plug one thing and go?
Yeah.
Got to plug the book. Got to get this. Hopefully he'll be in the Hall of Fame. You never know. I think they're
Hall
making
of
the
Fame
announcement very
finalist.
soon.
Elliot
Ezra's
Ezra.
book. Sorry.
Pulling the trigger.
Thanks, guys.
I've
Thanks
read
for
it.
listening.
He's
Why it
great.
happens,
Thank you, Robbie.
I put GTO Wiener over that just in case. just so you guys, it wasn't me, someone else did it. Just so you guys know I'm not, biased or anything. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you for joining us. This is, of course, the most exciting time in poker, so you guys can be with us here. We're not coming. We're coming for your day after tomorrow, Friday.
Yeah, Friday. Let's do
We're coming
it.
back at you guys on Friday
3 times
with
a
all the
week.
latest, all the newest. Thank you so much to our sponsors, Global Poker. We appreciate you, and we will catch you guys on the flip side. Oh.
Yes.
Deuces. Shit. I was supposed to put that...